Welcome back, everybody. We got Will and I Man here from the Block Runner Metazone, Rovi and M-Scribe, and today we're going to be talking about memes. Memes?
Memes. Finally, dude. Finally.
We said we wouldn't talk about memes, I Man.
We said a lot of things about memes over the last year or so, right? I mean, let's be honest, dude.
Dude, read the teleprompter.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure you read.
Right there?
Yeah.
That one?
Yeah, it's like one of these.
Just pick one.
Okay.
It's on every camera, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's been many... there's been many... Like, we've said a lot of shit about memes over the years, right?
Yeah.
Or not years. Maybe, like, over the last year while Ordinals was developing. It's like we had our own little journey of, like, discovery here on this channel.
Sure, yeah, I would say so.
It's like we found something more interesting, I guess, in our perspective to talk about over memes.
Yeah.
Right? Which seems to be like what the rest of the space was kind of like discovering.
Right.
Because they didn't have the context of like interesting developments on Bitcoin that we have, right? So
Yeah.
that's what we've been providing as like a channel,
Sure.
community, whatever, right? But it seems like we've reached this, like we're so close to the inflection moments of like going from a bear period to a full-on bull mode.
Yeah.
So typically, just like we were last cycle, everybody has to come to a consensus around what is the thing that's going to really grab everyone's attention this cycle,
That's right. That's right.
Last time it was NFTs. We had Gary Vaynerchek down our throats nonstop, dude. It's like fucking NFTs, bro. You know, those collectibles guys.
Yeah.
You know, they're digital and they're own, you have ownership, you know, all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And he convinced everybody, like, dude.
Yeah,
he's
Paris Hilton was in. Snoop
Mhm.
Dogg was in.
Yeah, so he was like the Murad.
Yeah.
So if you don't know who Murad is, we're going to introduce you to this new
This-
glorious figure in our space.
Our savior.
Yeah, he's literally meme Jesus.
Yeah.
He couldn't look any more like a Jesus, like literally. But apparently, like a few weeks ago, he gave like this very viral speech. And if you haven't seen it yet, you guys should. It's about 20 minutes long.
It's
But
worth it. Worth every minute.
yeah, he basically encapsulates like the current conditions, I think, of like Web3 and
Yeah.
like where this industry is and where it has been and probably where it's headed.
Yeah.
And a nice little 20-minute synopsis as to why like we're approaching a meme supercycle.
And
We're actually in one already.
yeah.
Right.
And it is his interpretation of crypto maturity, which is interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah, keep in mind this guy has like quite the heavy bag of memes in his portfolio. So
Allegedly like 100 million?
some people have been saying that. I don't know, that might not be the case. That sounds
Yeah.
absurd, but it could very possible.
Yeah.
And more motivation to have such strong conviction in this like idea.
Yeah. And speaking of memes, we're looking at the biggest meme of them all in Bitcoin. So,
Yeah.
So today Bitcoin went up like 5-6% or something like that. And we're like, well, what does that look like in the grand scheme of things? It was like, well, that's your 5% difference, that little tick up right there. So we got a long way to go.
Absolutely. But, you know, typically this is, you know, when Bitcoin breaks out for any given reason, really,
Mm-hmm.
maybe potentially this like industry alignment around memes might be a catalyst, right? It's like, okay, now we all kind of we get it, even though we have like some embedded disagreements, right?
You know, that's funny. We're talking about Bitcoin as a meme because obviously it is not. But remember during the metaverse days when in the heyday, everything was a metaverse.
Yeah, everything. Yeah,
Like even Twitter was a metaverse.
correct. Yeah, it was the hot, shiny term.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Let's just call everything a metaverse thing.
So
You know,
now Bitcoin's a meme.
yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Right? It's because now part of the video is he did a good job of like categorizing within like the movement of memes, right? You can have like these funny memes,
Yeah.
but these are like short-lived and you know the participants recognize that, but there's the real goal, the game here. Out of the billions of memes that are going to be produced is to discover like the few handfuls of like higher purpose memes.
Yeah.
right?
They
The
call
mission.
it mission memes.
Yeah, so it's like now we have like a collective purpose in like producing these memes, right? Like because some of these will have long-lasting cultural impact the way Doge has had.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the goal of like this whole sector is right to create a multi-cycle meme.
Yeah. Think about
paradigm.
that. Doge was so powerful that Elon was talking about it constantly.
Yeah, he's literally running for like a government cabinet position that's
Called
called Doge. What is it?
Department of Government Efficiency. Come on, man. You don't know your Elon lore?
I'm behind on my Doge lore and my Elon lore, dude. I'm sorry.
Shame.
Shame.
Shameful.
Shame.
Shame me, dude.
Shame,
the
dude.
meme lords will striketh me. Look at Murad in all his glory and power and magnificence, dude.
And speaking of Murad, so this is the video that we're talking about. So it's 20 minutes long, token 2049. It wasn't too long ago. And he talks about like the meme coin going parabolic in 2025. And he has like a perfect explanation as to like the mind shift that occurs and why, you know, he thinks that this is going to go parabolic.
Yeah, there's internal and external factors, right? Internal meaning like, I guess like the participants are just kind of fed up with like, you know, the establishment of how you get tokens from, I guess like
from Genesis to launch.
Yeah, from pre-market to market, right? And there's like a retail exclusion in a lot of the pre-market activities, right? So meme coins comes in to solve that and kind of like flip this narrative, like it's anti-VC, more retail friendly, right?
Yeah.
So, and then the external factors are, I mean, he goes deep when it comes to that. It's like, it's a whole like disruption of the social fabric and people are just completely void of meaning and purpose and like fulfillment.
Yeah.
And meme coins are coming in to supplement all of that. Basically.
Yeah. The same like profile of what he thinks like memes and its solution, like the solution that is memes is the same concept that we have in explaining why the metaverse.
True. Yeah, he brings up AI.
Yeah.
He brings up automation. It's like it's inevitable. Like we're removing human beings' purpose literally from like our physical economy.
Yeah.
So in light of that, like what do we do? These are like core components of our like self-actualization.
Right. Our identity.
Yeah, and then we're also in tandem with that, like removing things like religion and
that's right,
traditions and such. Is like where we're literally left is like we have a soul of an open canvas, an open canvas for a soul.
Yeah.
So our thinking is people will find new identity and purpose within the metaverse landscape.
And his thesis is that identity and purpose is going to be found through memes.
Yeah, which I think it's more like a less frictional like traverse. I think.
Yeah, less work, less effort. Like you don't have to build a metaverse to sustain that.
Correct. Yeah, so he says a lot of interesting things. Again, you guys should all watch it because it's been pretty much the light of the discussion as of late. So yeah, we've been asking ourselves after digesting this a couple of times. It's like, so what do we do as content producers? Because if you know our past, we've basically faded memes, right? I would say. Yeah. For many reasons. Like we were actually in like the utility camp. We like the idea of building products, right? we built quite a few ourselves.
That's a shameful thing to say, man.
In this day and age, it seems like it is.
Yeah.
Part of the presentation is literally like remove the products.
Yeah.
The only thing we need in crypto are tokens and communities.
Right.
Products, it's like that clouds everything, right? It makes things more confusing for people. So
yeah, so evidence to support, what Murad is saying and what we're saying is Pump.Fund is the fastest growing application by revenue in the history of the crypto economy, 100 million in revenue in just 217 days. And then you can see the chart here in comparison to everything else. And then you see OpenSea down here took 1,000 days. Yeah. 1,100 days.
So this was like this was actually the inflection point that the market had the right data, I guess, to kind of understand like the meme supercycle isn't anything to like scoff at.
Yeah.
Before the speech was made. Yeah. Right? So it's like the market was giving us all the indication that this is where the demand lies, right? Before, this was like several months ago where all this data came in.
Yeah. Yeah. So the speech was like September 27th, and this is like essentially 25 days before.
Okay, maybe it wasn't that. Damn, dude, it feels like it was 3 months prior. But
yeah, it was.
I guess it was just earlier in that month. Like all this data was coming. All this data was coming in.
1 month is like 6 months in crypto.
It's fucking insane, actually.
Yeah, and so what about memes on Bitcoin, man?
Yeah, I mean, again, we've been covering the Bitcoin ecosystem evolution for like almost 2 years now. So memes can happen on any chain, which is kind of like the beauty of it. Yeah. Right? Because it's so like ubiquitously applicable. Like if you have a chain, you have some sort of token genesis like
mechanism. Yeah.
Right. So therefore you can create memes.
Yeah.
Right. So some chains have more scalable environments over others. Bitcoin, the least scalable environment. So how are we going to actually facilitate this market demand on Bitcoin?
So what you're saying is Leo is right. Leonidas was right.
Leonidas and that whole Runes team, I think Casey was like, Runes is designed for memes. Right?
Yeah.
And the whole idea of like trying to figure out new programmable angles to it. He's like, no thanks, dude. The market doesn't give a fuck, doesn't want to deal with any of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Was he right?
Well, I mean, Casey's perspective is like the only crypto that is worth anything is Bitcoin.
It's true. Yeah.
So it's like, why do programmability? It's pointless.
Yeah. And to preserve, I guess, the sanctity of like the org client, let's remove some of this like fungibility aspects away from it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Which was the whole rooted premise to runes, but nonetheless, if you're looking for activity, I think the runes market, in response to what's being like discussed in this like zeitgeist cultural shift and alignment,
yeah,
runes are resurging, right? So let's take a look at them, dog.
Yeah, so let's go look at 7-day chart.
Mm-hmm.
And so dog is up 27%. So that is the token that Leonidas airdropped to anyone with a shard.
The runestone.
The runestone, yeah.
Yeah, which was like allocated to basically OG ordinal collector holders, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been happening over the last 9 or 10 months or so.
Yeah, and as you can see here in the 7-day like chart here, you have 27%. We have 56%. So like a lot of these memes are up. Like we got 100% here.
Yeah, and a new one. So we talked about $1 billion cat, I think, a video or two ago. How like there's significant like traction being generated from that meme, which started literally out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right. But a new one just emerged like over the last couple of days. If you like filter this by volume, it should be like on top, like by far. I think it's called like Gizmo. Gizmo, what is it?
Yeah, 118 Bitcoin.
That's not
7 million in volume.
In like a couple of days, dude.
Yeah.
That is nothing to scoff at, right? So the market's reacting here, right?
Yeah. So if you guys are wondering, like, how do you pick one from the other? Like, it's way more complex than it seems.
Yeah, it's a whole other category of, I don't even know if you could qualify this as fundamental analysis or not.
It's like a sector of fundamental analysis. Yeah.
There are tactics as far as like evaluating, because there's going to be such an influx of different memes and such. So yeah, trying to pinpoint like which of these have any potential, it is going to be like throwing darts.
I think in a podcast, I think we need to go deeper as to like how we determine like one token over another, because there's going to be tactics from all sectors of the crypto economy, like from the VC sector, from the cabals, like all this like organized efforts to pump tokens.
Yeah,
like
true.
All that is going to play a role in the meme cycle.
Yeah, I agree. Part of our responsibility, I think, is to have our finger on the pulse of this market, which is what we've done over the last 5 years. So there's a pulse here. There's a pulse happening.
Yeah.
And then part of us collectively is understanding how do you navigate like moving forward, right? Whenever something like something is emerging, a new trend, a new market, whatever you want to call it, right? So there's always new variables to account for. Mm-hmm. Like you're saying, right now things seem pretty organic, like it's a cultural movement coming from the bottom up.
Yeah.
But at some point,
not for long.
Yeah, at some point these toppers out there, they're going to figure out how to actually like the value is going to come from their end at some way or another. They're going to brute force that in.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be obvious, and people are
it's going to be engineered.
Yeah, it's going to appear organic. It's going to look like you're still part of this cultural movement, but you're not. We're right back to where like things started, right?
Yeah.
So
it's all a function of influence. Yeah, and so these VCs, they just pay for influence.
Yeah, but the mechanism of all that's going to be different, right? Because it's like there aren't these like typical tokenomic structures.
100%. They'll have to buy their own tokens.
Yeah, whatever. So speculation here. We don't know how it's going to be done, but we're just saying, in light of understanding how these markets proliferate, like you're going to see similar to like the 10K madness, 10K NFT madness.
Yeah.
Like it started off as like a cultural organic thing, but it became like a systemic, just madhouse of like just
engineered output.
Yeah, just regurgitation of the same thing over and over and over again for insider interest, right?
Yeah, so here's a Leonidas tweet. It says, Murad just publicly acknowledged that dog is the #1 meme coin on Bitcoin as a strong cult. So if you watch that video, he talks about cults, and that's actually a positive thing in the context of a meme.
It's true. Yeah.
And we got the strongest cult leader here in Leonidas pushing dog, and so it makes sense.
Yeah, I think, dog is definitely, if we're talking memes on Bitcoin, it is the biggest one on Bitcoin. It has a lot of these like lore components to it and a cult-like following for sure. Every time Leonidas tweets anything, he's getting thousands of engagers, right? So
yeah.
So yeah, is that factored into like a meme analysis? Probably.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
I would say so. Yeah.
All right. So Gizmo, yeah, we were just talking about Gizmo. Here's the chart.
Yeah, I mean, so
Going
this
crazy.
ultimately this is what retail participants are looking for, right?
Yeah.
They're not looking for the tech or all this other stuff, the things that we find valuable, but we're obviously outliers, I guess.
Yeah.
I feel like that space used to be a bunch of like
Yeah. Utility.
tech-driven enthusiasts.
Sure.
But yeah, the pendulum has swung.
Yeah, because we got new market participants. We got Zoomers who have, money to start dabbling into this stuff, and
Yeah.
they don't necessarily want to know about like staking and restaking and liquid tokens and all this stuff.
Yeah, like which of the like ZK proofs
Yeah.
is like the most like, I don't know,
Yeah, the most juicy.
the most optimistic.
Yeah.
or whatever, dude.
Yeah.
Like fuck off with all that noise, dude.
Yeah. All right. So, Bitmap.
Oh yeah, speaking of cults.
Yeah. You want a real cult? I'll show you one. It's Bitmap, an entire new category of memes set to be unleashed on Bitmap. This is the closest thing to early Bitcoin that I've personally seen in 13 years.
Yeah, so if you've been watching our channel over the last several weeks,
I certainly agree.
I would certainly identify like the activities of this Bitmap community as very cultish.
That's a good sign.
Yeah.
Congrats.
In light of the new, again, zeitgeist cultural alignment,
Yeah.
Bitmap is displaying some of the most like prime properties of like memetics or whatever you want to call it.
Are you saying we're joining the circle of
hippie drum circles?
Drum circles?
If
Yeah.
that's what it takes, dude. If that's what it takes,
I think so.
Yeah.
Make room, guys. We are joining the circle.
we just need to beat drums all day. We don't need to deliver actual metaverse like
No.
technology. That's an antithesis of like what cult building is all about, right?
Yeah. No.
Unless you want to traverse to a higher tier of meme or cult, right? So we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah. So here we go. The first Bitmap block drop token is claimable on Mscribe, and we're talking about the block token.
Yeah. So speaking about memes, this was like the first meme token actually created from the Bitmap itself, right?
Yeah. This is a child inscription, and you're inscribing a non-arbitrary value that is connected to that block.
Yeah. So yeah, it's if you own a Bitmap, you're able to inscribe these tokens, right? So the creator, the deployer of this token itself declared like this is a meme token, right?
Yeah.
So if you're in belief that Bitmap is like one of the bigger cults out there, but it's actually not a fungible token, which is the thing. Bitmap is a non-fungible
Correct.
asset creation, right?
It's interesting because Bitmap, being a non-fungible asset, is so plentiful in terms of like supply that it is.
That's true.
It is kind of considered a hybrid-esque type of asset.
It is and it isn't, right? It can be, I guess, if you do like what Jeff is attempting to do.
Yeah.
It's like, bring me your bitmaps, wrap them in this protocol, and I'll issue you like fungible tokens, and now
Yeah.
you have like some exposure to more liquid
Sure.
technology.
Liquid
right?
environments, yeah.
Yeah, so then at that point, it becomes fungible. But yeah, truly it is a non-fungible asset, so it doesn't have the same exposure to all the liquidity access as like a fungible token. So
Right.
So yeah, generating fungible memes from Bitmap is probably a good idea in light of what we're discussing. Right?
Yeah, so let's watch this 1 minute and 26-second video.
If it's a true cult, then even while you're asleep, you essentially have like an army of obsessed schizos who are like working for your bags, right? So a lot of people right now, they're making the mistake of thinking that meme coins are dangerous. I actually think if you identify culty ones, they represent safety. They represent emotional safety precisely because if it legitimately is a cult, people are not selling, right? Second thing is, when you tell a random person the word meme coin, they think like dogs and cats, like funny pictures. But my thesis is that as years go by, we're gonna start seeing a transition from funny meme coins to serious ones, right? That they don't need to be a joke, like it could be a serious thing. And so the way I see it is we're gonna have billions of meme coins, that's totally fine. I think we're gonna have like 100 meme coins that are based on real memes that are gonna be legit. I think we're gonna have like 20 cults, and I think within those 20 cults, you're gonna have like hardcore movements, or like mission coins as I call them. And like those 3-4 like mission coins, I think they're gonna go to the highest market caps. And essentially, if you're trying to find like the next big winner, you wanna find like the next mission, the next movement. Because when you wake up in the morning at like 6 a.m., right? An animal coin like doesn't really inspire you that much. But if it's a mission coin, people are really gonna hustle like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
makes sense.
This is the higher tier of Memecoin we were talking about, right? So,
yeah, the mission tokens.
Yeah, mission tokens. I mean, we could vibe with that all day,
Hell yeah, dude.
right?
That's my jam.
I feel like, so if you're not aware, there is a mission token in existence, right?
That's right.
It's called the NAT token.
Yeah, it's the first DMT fungible token that is non-arbitrary.
Yeah, so in order to understand the meaning and the value perception of that, of like this new fresh narrative, right? This is what he's classifying as like one of the many components of what makes something mimetically like valuable,
Yeah.
I guess, right? Is like the freshness of this, what this mission represents.
Yeah.
You have to understand first what DMT is and like what it's introduced as far as like into this entire ecosystem of crypto, right? An entire new like perception and understanding of how to create digital manifestation, right? And leveraging the most immutable data substrate layer in existence, which is called Bitcoin.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. So that token exists. It's out there.
Yeah, it's out there. You can get it right now.
Yeah.
Mission token. Yeah, and so we're looking at a tweet here from Ornell's Map. He says, NAT is Bitcoin's redacted twin brother. He says, birthed on the same day as Bitcoin, but took its first breath 15 years later. The biggest meme is DMT, track, tap, and so forth.
Yeah, the biggest meme in DMT.
Yeah, meme in DMT.
So yeah, I mean, I think this is interesting, right? We might have launched a mission coin, as he likes to call it, or something. That's how we like to interpret it, right? It has a lot of meme properties to it.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it has like right now a non-arbitrary supply, which is like 353 trillion supply.
Yeah.
It is based on the bits value of Bitcoin, and so if you mint a block, you get whatever that block's value in bits is. And it has like over 20,000 holders, and everyone had to do work to inscribe this thing.
Correct.
And it was freely distributed. You could use any platform to inscribe it, and now there's over 20,000 holders.
Yeah, and all those Bitcoin blocks were claimed within a week, right? So
yeah, this is the fastest block out so far.
Yeah, so there's a lot of, so we're talking about different ways to interpret the value behind a meme, right? And like Leonidas has his lore of like, you know, an initial free and fair airdrop of runestones to OG community holders that resulted in like 70 or 80,000 people now holding like the respective fungible token of that delivery system. So there's a whole other like
Murad talks about that. The airdrops don't necessarily build community.
Yeah, right.
So there's a lot of things to consider when looking into meme tokens. It's like how things were distributed. Yeah. What the supply is, what the holder count, how they got to that point.
So I think these are the interesting vectors, interesting to us at least.
Yeah.
Like memes are not just completely like
random,
like laughable things, right?
Right.
They are introducing new like novel distribution mechanisms that are disrupting the space.
Yeah.
Right. And as we're witnessing, it's shifting like the zeitgeist of the average typical crypto user, right? Which is going to have industry-wide ramifications, right? So it is something that we're going to have to follow more closely as a result, right?
Yeah.
Which is what we do whenever NFTs were first proliferating. We're like, we got to keep up with the NFT wave.
So what you're telling me is that the NAT token is going to be one of the top 20 meme tokens at a $100 billion market cap.
I mean, you guys tell us, is DMT like cult worthy? In the comments. You know?
I mean, so far, I feel like the cult has been forming.
Yeah, I guess there's quite the back and forth cult activities happening, right? Yeah. Some people who feel like they're in another cult. Yeah. Even though we feel like we're all collectively part of the same cult.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the DMT cult
is non-arbitrary cult. Yeah.
Yeah. Bitmap is a very much a non-arbitrary creation.
Yes, absolutely.
This is a cult in the making, right?
Yeah. We're all in the same
church.
We're
spitting the same gospel, guys.
Yeah, we are.
Are you not hearing the fucking, you know, the vibes?
The bongos?
No, my church doesn't have bongos, dude. My church has a full-on band.
It's like everybody's like smoking DMT.
Fuck yeah, dude. Why not, dude? That's like
you know, he mentions DMT in his speech. Did you notice that?
Yeah, DMT getaways. People actually do that. They like, you know.
Dude, we have a DMT getaway like every day.
We do. It's called this channel.
Yeah.
It's called making YouTube videos and such. But at some point, we're going to traverse these cult-like activities into the metaverse construct of the Natrix, and at some point, all of Bitmap participants who are going to like take leverage of this. Because I think, these memes are going to onboard, I think, a lot of people into the space this cycle, just because of that low friction aspect of it. But at some point, just like everything in Web3's past, it's going to be non-sustainable, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It's going to come, the disillusion will erode, right? Just like
Yeah.
everything. And then people are going to be left wondering, like, what is the next thing? Like, what's the next vertical of inspirational activity I could be a part of? And the metaverse is perfectly primed to.
It literally all leads to the metaverse, like everything.
We've been saying that.
Macroeconomics, our job situation, AI, automation, like everything leads to the metaverse.
Yeah, human fulfillment and purpose. Yeah. It's all headed in that direction, dude. It's super obvious to us, but yeah, Murad has done a good job of like, I guess, kind of like identifying these similar like premises and like directing it for meme coins for the now.
Yeah, and it makes sense because it's frictionless.
And it's easier to execute on.
Yeah, 100%.
As we know.
And final tweet here by Unison. He just kind of breaks down what NAT is and like how it formed and all that. So it's there for you guys to kind of read up. But yeah, that's it for us. If there's any questions, do you guys agree or disagree about the Memecoin Supercycle is in full swing?
Yeah.
Let us know in the comment section below. And I appreciate you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.
Peace.